When I meet with the student founders, many a times they are so deeply involved in their tech and building something that they forget that there is another aspect to building the business, which is sales, real money.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be sold. Everybody wants to buy. What mistakes have you seen that the early founders make when preparing for investor conversations?
The absolute first biggest mistake is they don't research the investor.
Me as an investor, when you reach out to me on LinkedIn, the first thing that I will do is what makes a startup investor ready beyond pitch decks?
You earn investors after you sort of don't need them.
What is your thought process on work-life balance and entrepreneurship?
I think balance is overrated.
You have led sales for the startups and large organizations, both. And when I meet with the student founders, many a times they are so deeply involved in their tech
Yeah.
and building something that they forget that there is another aspect to building the business, which is sales, real money.
Yeah.
Give us some guidance that how student founders should look at sales, where to start sales, and more for techie founders who are developing some deep tech, some cool AI stuff,
Yeah.
how they should approach sales.
But let's take the tech entrepreneur who they come in and they are passionate about their product, and that's great because you got to have that. But there are so many resources out there that they could be accessing to educate themselves, anywhere from there's just a ton of books, a ton of YouTube videos, whatever. But one of my favorite methodologies for people that don't know anything about sales is the Sandler sales methodology, because David Sandler basically paired up with a clinical psychologist, and he based it on kind of psychology and emotions and how people work. And I think that even if anybody can use these frameworks to be successful in sales. So I urge the tech people to they should understand a little bit about sales, and even they should sell the first handful of customers themselves,
Right.
in order to understand the effort and maybe positioning change or product change and so forth. But what you don't want to do, and I've seen this mistake so many times, is they'll go out and hire the VP of sales, not knowing anything about how to sell themselves and not having sold the first handful of units themselves. And they'll hire the VP of sales and they'll pay north of six figures for that person.
Right.
And that person may or may not be any good. So that's what not to do too. But you definitely need to educate yourself as the founder and the CEO to make sure that you understand how sales works, so that you can sniff out if somebody is not telling you the truth it is a numbers game. And it's one of the things I tell my students is it's the no is not a rejection of you on Schumann. It's no, either you haven't asked enough open-ended questions to see if there's a good fit. Does your product or service map to a challenge they have? So either you haven't asked enough questions and done enough customer discovery for them to say yes, or they truly don't have a need for the challenge you're trying to solve. So a lot of times people take it personally, but they shouldn't. They should just take it as it's a lesson.
Yeah.
I got up to bat and I took a practice swing and I didn't make a home run. Okay, that's all right. What did I learn from this meeting or call or what have you?
And be ready, energetic, and go for the next month.
Yeah, it is truly a numbers game. And it's like anything that is a mastery, takes 10,000 hours. Well, if you only make one sales call a day, you're not going to have enough at bats to be successful. So you're gonna need to have a lot of numbers in the beginning till you figure out the right messaging and the right fit.
Yeah. So Sithya, you have raised money and you have invested in startups. From your point of view, what makes a startup investor ready beyond pitch decks?
You earn investors after you sort of don't need them. So I'm really bullish on trying to grow your company organically. At least try to get the first handful of customers. Like you have maybe a strategic partner that you let on for free. You learn some lessons together with that partner. Then you sell 3 to 5, and then you've shown product market fit, and then you'll be a lot more interesting to investors. But you may also have the option at that point to just grow organically and own more of your own company than you would otherwise. And even just in my role here, I see a lot more startups than I ever was a part of. So I see that even angels are not very interested in the ideation, just the ideation phase. They want to know, have you done any customer discovery? Well, have you made any revenue? And they still want a little more proof that you're actually solving a real world challenge. So that's, but again, I'm really big on organic growth if you can swing it.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What mistakes have you seen that the early founders make when preparing for investor conversations? What mistakes do you think that early stage founders make in doing those cold outreach?
Okay, yeah. I think the biggest mistake is the absolute first biggest mistake is they don't research the investor,
Right.
or the investment group. I think it's rather than spamming 100 investors, you're better off researching a little bit about that group. Look at their website, look at their members, check out as much information. Now with AI, it's so easy. Check out as much information about them as you can and see if that's even if your product is something they actually even invest in. So people are a little bit lazy. Founders can be a little bit lazy and they don't do their homework. And then they're having to, I think they're getting a lot more rejection than they would if they just slowed down a little bit and do the research first. That's like the number one biggest mistake. And then the second mistake is that they launch in and just talk about themselves the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's not very effective. It's boring because you get hundreds of them a day, I'm sure. There's a model I've been following that I teach as well. I love it. This woman, Jill Conrath, she has a very simple cold email outreach approach. So just Google it and you'll pick it up. It's called Snap. But anyway, it's a 90-word format and it kicks off with just the person's first name and then something about that company in terms of, hey, I've done my homework, like what initiative or what news item is something that fits with the product that I have that might solve that challenge. So you have, hey, Anshuman, or say, hey, you just say Anshuman, and then you kick off with one sentence about something that your company is trying to achieve. And then without mentioning your company name and launching into the features and benefits and all that stuff, you talk about a case study. So I'd say, we're helping client ABC to grow their revenues by 40%. But you don't mention your company name. You don't do anything else. You just create a little credibility by the use case. And then you offer 2 or more different times this spikes your curiosity. I'm available this date, at such and such a time. And it's 90 words and no more. And then the subject line has to be compelling and create curiosity. And there's really very little about you. It may be your website's in the signature, but it puts it on its head. Like most people are just talking about themselves all the time and they're not really trying to figure out, hey, well, what is your company trying to solve this year? What are your strategic initiatives and how can I play into that and how can I be helpful? So
on the LinkedIn outreach, I've also seen that when you are reaching out to a founder, to an investor, and your own LinkedIn is not up to date, like
great point.
there is a name of the company that you are trying to build, but there is no information below it. You have been working or self-startup founder.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
And then there is nothing. Then me as a investor, when you reach out to me on LinkedIn, the first thing that I will do is to go and click on your LinkedIn to see who you are.
Yeah.
And if your LinkedIn is not up to date,
Yeah, that's
then
true.
I lose interest right then and there.
Right. Well, what other are you looking under the company? Are you looking for some key metrics? Yeah. What are those?
Yeah, basically that the current one and the previous one, what you have really done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big mistake the students make for sure is they'll have some work experience and then they don't have any bullets underneath. So we talk about each bullet, you should start with that power verb. generated $1 million in revenue in 12 months, and keep it short and keep it results oriented. So I did X action with Y result and 3 to 5 of those, and that's all you need. And a lot of times, like you said, they're blank. So,
And many times it starts with the headshot that you have on LinkedIn too.
oh, what's your criticism of the headshot?
It has to be a professional one because LinkedIn is a professional platform.
Yes. So what do you see? Do you see like a guy with a surfboard or something on there?
Then many a times, many a times. Unless you are building a shirtboard company or D2C sales company in that area, then why not?
Or you're in the music industry or something. You can have your wild hair.
And
I'm sure you have to sprinkle in your keywords for the industry that you're in. That's a lot of what people don't know is how is Google going to find you and your website if you need to sprinkle in your keywords. And a lot of people don't maybe know what their company keywords or their industry keywords are. So that's a whole exercise too.
Yeah.
All right, we'll bring you in.
Let's go through some rapid fire questions.
Oh.
One sales matrix that every founder must track.
Oh, I think the pipeline, sales pipeline. Once you have figured out what your message is, I think tracking your pipeline is essential. And I pick any CRM. I don't care, customer relationship management system. I don't care which one, but I've used them all. I've used Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce, and now I like HubSpot. HubSpot has a free edition, but there's a lot of them out there that you can use to put all your contacts in there. By all means, every lead should go in your CRM, and then you might be tracking when tasks and follow-ups with each lead, and then as you qualify them, they should be put into the deal pipeline, and then you should start looking at, okay, when's the next step, or this one is stage 4, we better have a fully filled out qualification form. We better know at least like 3 challenges that we're solving for them. We better know their budget, their timeline, decision makers, what's their decision making process, and then definitely a scheduled next step if we think it's going to go from 4 to closed.
Yeah.
And then like anything, you have to have the top of the funnel has more money in it, and then stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and then closed. And so I think every CEO should be peeking into that as well, all the time. Yeah. And even, can I tell a story?
Yeah, please.
So at one point in my career, I worked for a $200 million publicly held company. I was their first female VP of sales, and they were using Salesforce. And I won't name their names, but when I got there, they were only using Salesforce for the deal pipeline and not any meeting notes and whatnot. And so I said, well, my team, there are various teams based on horizontal industry or vertical industries. And I said, my team's going to start logging like significant meeting notes, not like a regular call to schedule something minor. But if it was a 3-hour workshop, that we're going to drop their notes in there. And I presented that at the quarterly meeting. And the CEO, once he saw that he could peek into the notes of every account, I mean, we're calling on accounts like, let's see, HP and Lenovo and all of these ginormous companies. And if he woke up at midnight worrying about something, he could go in and peek into the meeting notes. He was just overjoyed. And that's just sales 101 for a CEO. You shouldn't have to have a meeting about every single account. You could just peek into the CRM. So I'm very bullish on all of those metrics. But if you're only going to track one, track the pipeline.
Yeah. Biggest sales mistake first-time founders make.
Founder has a vision of where they want the product to go, or ultimately. And the vision is wonderful and worthy and all those things. But then there need to be some intermediate steps. So sometimes if you get too fixated on your end vision and you aren't flexible about the road to getting there, that can be harmful. So in one case, I had a CEO where I went out in the field, and after 6 months or so, I said, hey, I can sell $1 million a year per prospect. And here's what the market is saying. This is what they want. Well, but our vision is this. We want this other vision. And I said, well, I think we'll get there. But right now, they're too afraid to do that big vision. But I think in order to capture the market share and capture these accounts and lock them in. We need to take this intermediate step. And he couldn't see it. He got too rigid with the ultimate vision in terms of like the road has to go from, we had to go from A to Z, hopping over any potential wins. We could have had a series of wins along the way that could have grown our organic revenue. So the challenge there is that then you are constantly raising money because you can't let go of this other longer term vision. So that's one thing I've seen. And yeah. I mean, the other thing is when the technical founders hire VP of sales and then just let them go for 2 years, and then they come back and say, well, what happened and where are you? And they still have 0 sales to their name. That's a nightmare I've seen a few times.
It is so difficult to find a good sales team,
Yeah.
to build a good sales team. Why does
I think it's terrible. It's dismal. But I think part of it is that because people that get into sales tend to be really great communicators, so they can get themselves to the interview and really impress a few people and so forth, and still not really be effective on the job or in the field. And part of that, I think, is there's a lot of salespeople that really lack the discipline to really be successful. It's if somebody's been riding their whole life on charm and charisma and they're not used to making 40 or 50 cold calls a day or cold emails or cold LinkedIn messages, whatever it is at the beginning, or they get distracted by other things like working on strategic partners that don't bring in the revenue or things like that. There's a lot of ways to get distracted in tangents and not actually do the hard bits of the job. So yeah, I like disciplined people over quote unquote traditional charismatic salespeople. But I think there's a lot of people that are great at communicating and not really great at actually digging the trench at the end of the day.
I've also seen that trying to find the right fit for that, somebody who has been very successful in being in the top sales role for multi-billion-dollar company will fail at a $200 million company.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way for sure. Yeah, at the beginning of my sales management career, I hired guys from Oracle and this and that and the other, and I learned it very much the hard way. I mean, they were very ineffective in the startup, and I think because they're accustomed to a certain level of resources at the larger companies, so which is great. The larger companies have full-blown market research teams, and they have an ADR, an SDR who's fielding the web leads come in, and somebody sort of makes a call and qualifies them, and then they hand them over to the account manager. And so there's a lot of resources in the big corps that then in the startup you end up having to do yourself. And so that was you're right, a miserable fit. I'd rather take somebody who maybe they played sports in college and they're used to getting up at 6 a.m. and going to the pool and swimming laps or going to the gym and meeting the coach and they have enough discipline to make it through, and then training them on how to work a startup, because they don't have a preconceived notion of like, wait a minute, I don't make my own PowerPoint decks. Like, yeah, you do. Here you do.
So true. A sales myth that needs to die.
Oh, if you can fog a mirror, you can sell. That, in other words, like if you're breathing air, you can sell. No. I mean, I think a lot of people think sales is easy, and or they say, oh, it's you either have the natural gift or you don't. No, that there are frameworks and methodologies that you can learn and become more effective. It's a skill and an experience, and you should always, just like any area, you should always be improving your skill and your experience through education. So yeah, I think and that may be one reason universities don't teach sales, is they think it's like a trade or something easy. But it's probably one of the harder elements of a company, not just a startup.
So Cynthia, you firmly believe that sales is a trainable skill.
Yeah, I do. I do.
I do too.
I mean, I think too, people think, oh, sales, that's got to be like if you're 0 to 10, you're 10 out of 10 on the extroverts. Yeah, you're going to be a great sales guy. We've had in IT and in tech and SaaS software, which I spent a lot of my time in, we've had a lot of success with introverts. Why? I always tell my students, why? Well, guess what? They're pretty good at asking open-ended questions and just listening and gathering the information that they need to see if there's a fit. Whereas the extroverts are talking all the time and they're not listening.
Yes.
So, yeah.
The problem, the challenge with extrovert in sales, and some degree of extrovertness is needed. But my philosophy is that nobody wants to be sold. Everybody wants to buy.
Yeah.
So if you are a super extrovert, you are selling the product with its features, price point, benefits, and whatnot. But I'm feeling like somebody's selling me something. I want to buy it.
Yeah.
I want to be the decision maker. I want to be the selector of that product.
That's why I love Sandler methodology so much, is because they use reverse psychology a lot. And we'll be teaching it this semester too, which is maybe you'll say, like, give me a challenge you have in your business. Say, what challenge do you have today? Maybe
Getting in front of my ICP, which early stage founders.
Yeah. So tell me more. Like I'm going to start asking you, rather than you're responding to a question and then I'm pouncing on you. Here's how I can solve it.
Yeah.
It's like we want to peel the onion layers back further and further and further, so that you're coming toward us as a solution versus me pushing it on you. And Sandler talks about like the pendulum. If I push the pendulum this way, then you're going to back up. It's just like dating. If you're meeting somebody for a coffee date and 5 minutes later you're asking them to marry you, they're going to back up. Whereas if you back up, if you're the pendulum and you back up, then that gives you room if you want to move forward.
Right.
So it's a little bit of reverse psychology, even at the end where you say, okay, I'm ready to sign the contract. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? We can rip it up right now if you like. And just making sure everybody's completely on board and 100% comfortable. But that's true. Right now, it's all about adding value to your prospect.
Good point. One habit that consistently drives revenue.
I like is making the calls. I was just gonna say making the calls is a short answer, but as when I was VP of sales, I used to say, like, we would have, okay, you gotta have 10 completed calls a day. So that means 10 meaningful calls a day. So that's 50 a week. And it would usually result in 2 demos a week, something like that. And eventually your pipeline would be full. So I measure the small stuff. If you do the small stuff, then the big stuff will come up. Yeah, will come. Yeah.
Advice for the students and first-time founders. If you are a student founder just starting out, what's the one thing you should focus on this year?
Oh gosh, I might call on my Greek philosophy, which is then know thyself. Like, understand your strengths, your weaknesses, the things that light you up, the things that you don't want to do. So that would be then your list of, okay, my first hires are going to be, in my case, it would be accounting or finance. Like, what pieces? Yes, I can do it. Does it light me up? No. So kind of knowing yourself, that will help you figure out where you want to grow the team first, instead of like trying to do everything all the time, because it can be a 24/7 gig, right? As a founder.
How about for that to sell?
Of course. Yeah, I think that's important. But if you don't know what you bring to the table, it's going to be hard for you to get the right team together formed. But definitely, if you have an idea and you definitely need to go out and do some customer discovery. I think we say like 100 interviews with potential customers that aren't your friends and family. Get out there and interview them and see what they think and listen to their feedback and adjust the product and so forth. And then hit the LinkedIn or the phones or however you're going to do your outreach. So
Problem validation is very, very important for the student founders. If you are just building it just for the heck of it because you dreamt of something which appears to be a big problem. And when you start talking to your potential customer, it is really not a big problem.
Right.
Then there is no point in building a product that nobody is going to buy.
Yeah.
So, like, problem validation and problem identification.
Yeah.
If you spend a good amount of time, get some mentorship on that, and then sales, yeah, you can build it, but how you're going to sell it. Your closing advice: what do founders need to hear more often, but they don't? Something like it takes longer than expected. It is tough to build a business. What have you heard? What you do? What your advice would be to a serious founder who is not just doing it for a project completion basis, but somebody who is serious about going into entrepreneurship?
Well, I think it's important because it can be a 24/7 gig. It's important to figure out how to pace yourself a little bit so that you're not too stressed out all the time, because then the team, that gets conveyed to the team. So having a plan for, I don't like the word balance because I don't think we never get balance. It's not a balance. We're not evenly going to be over here and evenly over there, but we also need a little bit of sleep in between. So I think having a plan for how you're going to maintain your health, your sleep, your eating habits, all of that, like how you're going to stay whole as a person. Because I've seen a number of founders have, young people too, serious health issues because they're driving too hard, too fast, and really only get one shot at this. So you do need to take care of the physical as well. So maybe that's not the most, I think it's the most essential piece of advice, but I'm sure there's better business advice out there somewhere. But yeah.
Let me ask you this, Cynthia. What is your thought process on work-life balance and entrepreneurship?
I think balance is overrated. I think the idea that everything is, for me, the idea of balance is everything is somehow equal. Like you're going to have an equal time on the personal side and equal on the professional side. Or if you have 4 or 5 areas of your life, that everything is somehow balanced and even. And I think that's overrated. And I think that most people that are passionate about whatever they do, whether they're a founder or they have a regular career, they'll probably spend more time in their pursuing their passion than in other areas. I think that's fine. I think it's when you need to know when to shift into a specific role, or shift, now I need to take care of myself, shift into, I now need to spend time with my children. And we had a great author and speaker here last fall, Amanda Getz, who wrote a book on toxic grit. And so it's a great read about how to shift from, maybe you've just had a 12-hour day as an entrepreneur, and then you've just arrived home and you have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. How do you shift from power CEO mode to cute and cuddly parent, get on the floor and play games with your kids? And so she addresses that. And I think it's a great read. And it's particularly important for women too, who have certain expectations at the home that I think the men are come around and they're getting more even share of it. But I think it impacts women pretty seriously. And I think that, I don't think my life has been balanced, but also I think it's find a partner that understands that you're passionate about something and that's willing to support you in potentially being gone and flying to Japan, or being gone half the time of the month, or whatever it's going to entail. Make sure you choose your partner well too, your life partner and your business partner well.